and it's, yeah, because it's.
You can do it something new.
I don't think so. I don't know if someone just joined or
Well,
not.
but
But
they're kind of slow, yeah, so, yeah, yes, exactly.
So if I can share with you what's coming to me intuitively.
Okay, there.
If you don't mind. So number one, call on him for success and ask him, but what I'm getting is that you're having successful moments that you're not recognizing, that you're not honoring. You're having small wins. Tell me if this resonates with you. You're having small wins and gains that you're kind of dismissing because the bigger goal of what you want hasn't quite come together. Can you identify with that? And if you can't, it's okay. Some things may come to you to get later, but recognize each small win on the step to the bigger one.
can you tell Sadie?
Okay?
Jennifer, if I know.
So yeah,
But then
but
we can-
call on him and ask him for specific of what you need. Brooke, how does yours resonate with you?
Unity.
And which
Which
angel?
is probably, oh, I'm sorry, Ariel.
Okay. Oh,
I was just like scream singing some Little Mermaids. That might be why. But it's with unity, which I feel like is probably a good message for,
and Healers United,
right?
validation of what you're doing. And if you remember from the training,
Yeah.
she is in charge of our soul purpose and what we're here to do.
This is gonna be, just by the way, like I'm just gonna cry tonight. Like I'm for sure like not emotional.
The eyes
now,
are
so,
gonna
like
leak. Yeah.
yeah.
So
So I'll probably just be crying the whole time. So
that's okay.
don't,
Do
just
want
know.
There's a box of tissues here. Here we go.
Just let me go.
This is your last in-person meeting.
That too.
And
We'll just keep
so
going. All
I
the
got
reasons,
Faith blessing me with faith.
Where are you moving?
to Wilmington.
We'll just come down and
Oh,
visit
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Oh, no, you just not moving houses here.
Sorry.
Look how many angels it's gonna take to fix this
Whoa.
situation.
Let's see. So
Celestina's blessing you with prosperity. On the bottom, we have Michael blessing you with daring. So this must be a bold thing that you're doing. Wow, they
pretty.
like Celestina blessing you with support.
well, I will probably need all.
Daniel blessing you with homecoming.
Oh. That's sweet.
And Michael blessing you with safety.
That's pretty good.
Right?
I'm getting chills.
That's good. That's a good. Good lineup.
Wow.
That's a good line.
They all came out.
Right?
Yeah, I mean, literally, they literally jumped off the bottom of the deck.
Yeah. So, yeah, I'm not able to stay in my house basically post divorce. So I made it last as long as I could, but I had to move, and we just kind of decided that with my daughter and I basically we decided that we were out for a bigger change than just moving somewhere in Raleigh. So
Okay.
good try.
Now, will you
We'll see.
still continue to do?
Yeah, we're so our next meeting is technically online only, and then part of it is figuring out what this turns into. So
Okay.
that's what we're trying to figure out.
So yeah, so call on them. So what's coming to me, Michael, with travel is movement. So we think of travel as traveling abroad or going on vacation, right? But travel is movement. So you can call on him for this as well as you getting to England. Is it? Yeah.
You haven't
And you had unity. Yeah. And so unity, right? Doesn't matter where you live, unifying people, which you tried to do right from the beginning, right? That was your goal from the beginning, bringing people together to support Western North Carolina.
Yeah, that too.
That was where it started, right?
Yeah.
So beautiful. So for those of you who don't know me, I'm Anna. I do wear many hats. So I'm a life and spiritual coach. I'm a professional speaker and author. I spent 20 years developing perfecting a life coaching program that I use to help people live a life that they love no matter their circumstance. So people who are experiencing conflict or grief and feeling stuck or wanting to move, just gonna call on you, right? Move like a big transition. And sometimes people are like, I don't know what to do or where I'm going. So I help them figure out where they're at and where they want to go using this revolutionary program. In 2016, I got dropped into the deep end of the spiritual ocean. And when I say, looking back, I had some on ramp. There were some things that happened that I was like, but I was able to talk it away. And in 2016, my massage therapist said to me, I'm trying this. I've been with her for 6 years, and we'd had some existential conversations. I was a huge skeptic. If I couldn't see it or touch it, basically didn't exist. And she said, I'm trying out this new thing. Can I practice on you? I'm like, what is it? She goes, we work with the angels and the energy. And I was like, oh, like literally, I'm thinking to myself, oh, dear God, you just do you. And literally what I share with people is, had I not had that relationship with her, I probably would have never returned. Like I would have just suffered through the massage and never returned. But so she did what I'll share with you a little bit later. It was the integrated energy therapy. I have multiple energy modalities that I use, but integrated energy therapy is my go-to for trauma energy. And so that's what she was doing. She was taking this new class. She was fresh in it. And there was a very definite experience in my body that happens where we store anger. And I'm laying on the table and I'm thinking, I don't know what this witchcraft stuff is. And does anybody hear? Well, it's going out, so I'll just refrain from any swear words.
Oh, no, do not.
I was like,
you do not need to.
I don't know what the F you're doing, but take your hands off of me is kind of what I was thinking. There's this other little voice. I'm like, get off the table and run. And this other little voice is like, you're going to be okay. All going to be okay. So she gets done, and she was doing what's called a 5-minute empowerment session, I'm guessing, right before the massage. So I'm like, what were you doing over here? Because I had massive amounts of heat. You know, the expression, I was so mad, I was hot. And in traditional Chinese medicine, the liver is where we store anger. So it was like an inferno. And I'm like, So that's what made me want to get off the table and run. But the little voice was like, you're going to survive. You're not going to erupt into flames. So then she says, we're releasing anger and resentment. Well, I know now resentment is here, anger is here over the liver. So I'm like, okay, all right, fine. I survived. I didn't erupt into flames. And I go to my next massage, like 2 weeks. I was seeing her about every 2 or 3 weeks. So she's like, I'm going to practice again. I'm like, okay, you do you. I know I'm not going to erupt in flames. So she does her thing. And then it was the second or third session that she did. So 5 minutes a pop, like that was it. And it was funny because I don't wear t-shirts, but I had a t-shirt that I wore till it was threadbare. And it was a Calvin and Hobbes t-shirt. And it said, every day of my life, I'm forced to add one more name to the list of people who pissed me off. Foretelling sign, right? And I would go home at night and I would say to my husband at the time, I'm like, you know, something pissed me off today. And I distinctly remember him saying one time, everything pisses you off. So it wasn't like raging, but literally I'm like, this pissed me off. This pissed me off. I had this t-shirt. Now 2 or 3 short sessions with her. I'm walking through life one day and I literally went, something happened. And I was like, I remember having this epiphany, like, wow, that would have pissed me off. That would have upset me. And it was like, okay, no big deal. And this little voice was like, there's something to this. So now flash forward few weeks after this, some short time after, I'm teaching my 5 steps to heal conflict and grief. The workshop that I do with my coaching program. And there's 5 people there. It was a 5-week program, 5 Tuesdays or whatever for 2 hours. And I was charging $75 for all 5 sessions. So the woman, I go around and I'm meeting everybody. And this woman, the first woman I come to, she pushes this thing in front of me. She goes, I'm teaching this class, and I think you might be interested. It's $190, and I'm doing it on whatever day. And I'm thinking to myself, we just said hello. You're paying $75 for my class, and you're pitching me it was $190 at the time, I think. And I'm like, this doesn't, like, yeah, okay, whatever. It just wasn't resonating with me. But I went home, and now I know it was my guides, right? But I kept feeling this tap, tap, tap. Like, you know, that thing that she put in front of you, that's the thing that changed your life. Literally, I didn't even have the words. It's like, that's the thing that changed your life, that you feel better. I was like, okay. So the next week I went to her and I said, you know, the thing that you put in front of me, what was that? She goes, it's integrated energy therapy, which is what my practitioner, my massage therapist was trained. So I'm like, okay, sign me up. So now the bells are going off and I'm coming on board. And so I take the class, and within 6-8 months, I'm fully certified at all 3 levels and certified to actually teach. Life changing. So I'm going to back up a little bit and why this is so important to me. So I said it works on emotional trauma. I'd always, as a little girl, known that I wanted to be a helper. And on May 11th of 1990, my firstborn son died following unexpected delivery complications. It was a picture perfect class book, textbook pregnancy. Something went haywire, which is common in childbirth. What is uncommon is that it's fatal. And he didn't survive it. So imagine the grief and the conflict. Over the next 7 years, 6 years and 10 months to be exact, I would experience 2 second trimester miscarriages, 2 complicated but successful pregnancies, a 6-week psychiatric stay for severe depression, and 1 final pregnancy. Brooke has heard this story. 6 weeks before that child was born, I discovered that my husband and my best friend were having. So all of that loss in 7 years, you can imagine the emotional trauma. So what came from that, when my son died, I had a thought hours after I heard those words, I'm sorry he didn't make it. I literally had this thought, I don't want to spend a lifetime mourning my son. And what I say is I didn't know what that meant, what it looked like on the other side, or how the heck I was going to get there, but a seed had been planted. During that 7 years period of back-to-back losses, there was a question that drove me forward, which is, how is it that some people go on to live happy, fulfilled lives following tragedy, mishap, or mayhem, while others succumb to drugs, despair, life avoid, or suicide? That question spawned thousands more questions. And when I wrote I wrote a reflective memoir that I think they still have it here, Digging for the Light, which chronicles that 7-year period. That's a reflective memoir. So it talks about the really challenging, painful events. It also talks about the thought processes and the things that I did that led me out of that to be able to stand here today, even way back then. So when I wrote about the morning of the affair, when I was writing that piece, what came through me was every piece of hope I've ever held on to before had just been shredded. My faith in God and dignity and trust, every spiritual, emotional, social, physical, and academic part of me laid in a heap to be tossed out with the garbage. It never made it to the garbage. I recycled it instead. When you're writing a book, if anybody's ever written a book, the writing of the book is the easy part. It's all of the edits and getting it ready for publication that tend to be really time consuming. And it was in one of the final edits, those 5 things stood off the page: spiritual, emotional, social, academic, and physical. And I heard that's it. It's like, that's what? It's like, that's the answer to the question we've been asking. So I started asking more questions. What are they? What do they do? And this doesn't have anything to do with energy, but we all are born with 5 universal gifts: an ability to learn, to feel, born into a physical body and a physical environment, an ability to connect to the world around us, and we're all born with the divine self within. Those facets exist in a hierarchy that's unique to each one of us. What's at the top of your hierarchy literally drives the bus of you. It drives both your success and your struggle. You basically have to learn to manage it. As we work down the hierarchy, each facet has less and less daily impact and influence on our daily life. So it's like out of sight, out of mind, but it's at the bottom. We have to be intentional about supporting it. Now, this will all tie together with energy, I promise you. So 20 years perfecting this, doing this work, having great success, coaching people with this program. 2016, I got dropped into the deep end of the spiritual ocean. Now, there was a point when I was getting all the answers to this program, and growing up, I never thought I was a smart person. My brother is like Mensa level, and I was the oldest of 3, and he's the middle, and he's like genius. And I never thought I was smart. And as all of this is coming together, I thought, wow, I am kind of smart. Like, I could see this building. I'm like, wow, I am kind of smart. And one day I got a critical piece of this program out of nowhere. And I had this thought, this is not coming from me. It's coming through me. So it's all, like I said, there was an on-ramp, right? My son came to me when he was about 2 or 4. He came to me in a dream. I thought it was a dream, but I believed it was like it's more than a dream. But again, remember, I didn't believe any of this. Huge skeptic. But I kind of knew. Now I have this energy experience that changed my life, and quickly things started happening. Mediumship, I started communicating with dead people. They were showing up. I'm like, didn't have the language for any of this. Angel numbers, seeing angel numbers everywhere. If you're familiar with angel numbers. And something drew me to these 2 women that one did psychic mediumship and another one was doing the talk about what guides are and angel numbers and all this. We're sitting and I'm like, okay, they were doing psychic parties, whole parties. I'm like, okay, it sounds fun. I invite 11 of my friends and we're sitting around my dining room table, and the one girl is taking people out to do mediumship readings, and this other one's talking about guides and things like. And I read repeating numbers. I'm like, repeating numbers? What's 4? It's 333. I was saying that everywhere. She's like, oh, that's the Ascended Masters. And I'm like, the ass what? Like, literally, literally, the ass what? She goes, the Ascended Masters. I'm like, Ascended Masters? She goes, yeah, like Jesus and Buddha, they're trying to get a hold of you. And I'm like, you're trying to tell me in Podunk, New York, that the likes of Jesus and Buddha are trying to get a hold of me? But they were, right? So now all of this is onboarding. The energy medicine, and now I'm in my 8th year, and I've had all kinds of experiences with all kinds of energy beings. Energy experiences. So what I found is once I started doing this and realizing the power of it, I then started incorporating energy medicine into the talk therapy coaching that I was doing, and it's magic. It's absolute magic because I'm helping people. I don't call myself a grief specialist because there's too many people that get stuck in grief. And remember that thought that I had after my son died? The grief world and the bereavement world would have us believe that our grief is forever. Your grief is going to last forever. You just have to change it. It will just change. You learn to live with it. I personally don't subscribe to that. I speak to audiences, small audiences and big audiences and grief parent groups. And I have a TEDx talk that I did. And on every single stage, I stand before you and I 100% can say to you, I no longer want any aspect of my son's death. And I did realize what it was that I did want, and that was to be able to celebrate his life. So when people are experiencing conflict or grief, there's a lot of the trauma. So when we visit it, it's like, okay, I use specific loss events as a baseline to help people understand their processes to meet themselves so we can create their hierarchy and an action plan to get them to where they want to go. And now they have the framework and the language of who they are, like and so it's kind of like your astrology, right? If you know your astrology chart, Capricorn, Cancer, Capricorn, me. Some of us, we at least know our name, our number one sign. So it's meeting yourself through a different lens. When we're talking about that trauma, right, it can feel worse. So we have to usually the first 2 sessions, we explore these things, and then I come in with this IET session that clears that trauma energy. So IET works on 9 cellular memory areas in the body. So guilt, distrust, shame, threat, shoulds.
Those. Every time I told her to type, I'm like, should. It's like, no.
You remember those shoulds? You remember that? Yeah. So the shoulds: heartbreak and betrayal, resentment, anger, stress and powerlessness, and fear. So we work in those 9 areas in the body in each session to remove the trauma energy that's stored in there. The beautiful thing about IET, when you're at the basic level, you're working in the body, in the physical body, and the emotional within the body. Once we move to the intermediate and advanced levels, we're now working in the energy field. So we're able to clear the karmic imprints from this lifetime in the past, but also from past lifetimes. So are you all familiar with like the energy field and the imprints and trauma? If not, I will discuss it a little bit. So they're depending on the concept that you use, like most people use the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual layers of the energy field. Some people call it the auric field. There are, I understand, like some concepts that are like 11 layers of the auric field. I'm not an expert on that, but from IET standpoint, we have the physical layer and we're like in a sphere. We're like in this big egg. So imagine that we're in an egg, right? So this energy field is bilateral. It's all the way around it. So we have the physical layer that is closest to the physical body, and it's about 8 to 12 inches from the body. And then outside of that, we have the emotional layer. And then outside of the emotional layer, we have the mental layer. And then beyond that, we have the spiritual layer. So when we experience trauma that is too overwhelming for the body, depending on, and each person in each situation is different, what happens is the energy gets stored in the physical body, in the cellular memory area. So I liken the cellular memory areas to a little bucket. So imagine in a water drip, 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 drip. Well, energy science has proven that energy has weight. I don't know if you've ever heard that scientific study. So they actually measured the weight of a body, and then they measured it like right before death, and they measured it at death. And there is a proven scientific difference in the weight. And don't ask me exact how many grams it is, but it's been scientifically proven. That's the spirit body. That's the energy of the soul leaving the body. So now, every time you encounter anger, we'll just use me as an example, right? Drop of energy, drop of energy, drop of energy. My anger bucket is spilling over. So everything pissed me off. So with IET, so now it's also going in the body, but it's also being imprinted in the energy field. So if I have an angry thought, that's going into the mental field. If I have like feeling really sad, that's going into the emotional field, and those things can be linked, right? So you ever wonder why we keep attracting the same type of people and the same type of situations to us? Energy, so you're all energy practitioners in some form, yes? Mm-hmm. So, energy sees energy. Empaths, we feel the energy, we see the energy. It's these imprints in the energy field that are saying, I see. I see. I see.
It's a little creepy.
Sorry. I do have a flair for the dramatic, but right. So we're trapped in it. And what IET does is it goes and it helps remove that trauma energy from within the body, and it also helps to clear the imprints from the energy field, which gives us a better chance of success for rewiring and repatterning the old habits that we've had, so that we can now make new decisions to help us rather than repeating old patterns. So the energy, that's what the IET energy does. And it's super powerful. So I'm going to pause there and see if any of you have any questions.
I'm surprised I've never heard of this before.
So if you have, let's say, like a soul contract, like you want to learn a lesson here on Earth, and you're with someone, you don't learn the lesson, but then you get an IET session to clear your field. I don't know how that would work.
So there's multiple layers. One of the
Okay.
things that I say is it's seldom one thing that gets us to where we're going, and it's seldom one thing that helps us shift and change. Just like I was having great success with just the coaching program, now when I add the energy, it brings in another layer and dimension to the healing that amplifies the healing, adds what I call depth and dimension to the learning. So the soul contract, which I don't think I mentioned, that's also one of the things that I discovered when I got dropped into the deep end of the spiritual ocean. My son and I had a soul contract to do this healing work. So I call myself a healing specialist. Not, as I said, not a grief specialist. Because everything that my focus is on helping you heal, whatever it is, conflict or grief, so that you can live a life that you love. So our soul contract was him. Remember that moment where it's like, wow, this is coming through me, not from me? I believe that that's him. It was part of our contract. And that actually, that night when I had the psychic reader in my house, and she said, well, your son is here and he's your joy guide. And I'm like, Jesus, Buddha, asking something or another, and this joy guide. It's like, what is all this? But so that's our contract. So we had a soul contract to do that. There are many different beliefs. And what I always say, this is not the gospel. So anything that I share with you tonight, take what resonates with you, discard the rest, create your own tapestry. My understanding of soul contracts is, my personal belief is that there's not a God or deity that chooses this life force. My personal belief, what resonates with me, is a concept I was introduced to very early on, and that is that the soul says, I want to learn particular life lessons through experience, and the universe, God, spirit, source, divine, whatever word you want to use, says, in my way, great. We support you in that, and we're going to set you up in the best possible scenarios to learn those lessons to experience. Now, Angel Ariel, I didn't bring my angel cards. Angel Ariel is the one who brought us IET. She actually downloaded it to Stephen Thayer, who was a Bell South laboratory engineer back in the 80s. So we'll talk about that later. But so the soul coming here, the universe says, I'll set you up. Ariel says, you ask for these things with the soul, and you come in kicking and screaming, right? That's part of remembering. So if you had a soul contract with someone, it can be to clear karmic energies that weren't healed before. Now, my personal belief about karma, we tend to talk about karma is a bad thing that's going to come back to bite you in the ass. The way I understand it, and it resonates with me, is karma is just energy. So anything that you explored in a previous life and you healed, and even in this life, but that energy comes forward into the present for you to access and use now as part of your success. Anything from a previous life that wasn't healed comes forward into the present to heal. And it can be really challenging. Mm-hmm. So the soul contract, where IET, where I see that can play a part in that, is helping you. Excuse me, is communication part of your challenge?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Because all of a sudden my throat closed off. Mm-hmm. Wow. So Tracy, speaking up.
Yeah.
Advocating for yourself. Yeah, okay. So the shame center of communication, that's one of the energies that IET releases. And what I absolutely love, you're really working on that, right?
Yeah. We're really working.
Oh, energy healers are so funny.
I know, right? Not to call you out or
No,
anything,
it's fine.
but you are here to talk about energy. Wow, where was I going?
You were saying shame and the
Oh yeah, so shame. What I love, thank you. What I love about IET is it's the only modality that I've come across that most modalities, they just work on removing the blockages. With IET, and it really is a next level to Reiki. It works with the angelic frequency, and we're working at the angelic ray of the frequency. I actually been teaching intermediate class or intensive class in the last 3 days, which is basic, intermediate, and advanced. And there's a Reiki practitioner that's in the class. I've had several, and they're like, this is definitely not to take anything away from Reiki because it has its purpose, but it just does things at a whole nother level. So what I love about IET is that as we work with the body to release that negative and limiting energy, we invite the body to receive in the energy's positive counterpart. So it creates homeostasis in the body. So that's where I could see that could help you with that. Now, as you know, we can only help ourselves. So the outcome of you healing yourself might not be what you envision. The outcome of this soul contract with this person, it may be that you're here to work it out and make it work in this lifetime. And it may be that you're both here to just help each other ascend in this physical world. And so that's where IET can help, clearing those patterns to help you get yourself, bring yourself into the greatest spiritual and physical alignment that you can be in. Just that.
That was a beautiful explanation. Thank you.
Does that
Yes,
answer your
yes.
question?
Yeah.
You mentioned that you're surprised you haven't heard of it. So IET started in Woodstock, New York. So the founder, again, Stephen Thayer, he's a Bell South laboratory engineer. You can imagine, very much in his head, analytical, logically minded. In the early 80s, he was going through a lot of stress. This was when PCs were first kind of coming on board, and he's involved in all of that, the programming, that process, lots of stress. He came across Reiki, and he actually had Reiki sessions, found it was beneficial, went on to become, I'm pretty sure, don't quote me on this, pretty sure he went on to become a Reiki master teacher. But in the process of using Reiki, Angel Ariel came in and started, and there's the sound validation. Yeah, I don't know if y'all use sound validation, but it's big for me. Like when I say something and sounds come in, that's confirmation. Yeah. So he started getting these messages from Angel Ariel, and he was in around Woodstock, New York. And so this was back in the late 80s, I believe 1987, if I'm correct. So he starts getting this information, then he starts working on other people, asking them kind of, I imagine, like my massage therapist said, and it was so powerful. And the people there, like, we've never seen anything. And then some of his fellow practitioners that he was practicing on, they're like, you need to teach this to other people. So in the scope of things, compared to Reiki, which has been around for centuries, IT is young. So 87, coming up on 40 years, right? In a few years. So it's relatively new. It started out in the Northwest region, really expanded there. It's in something like 37 countries. Now, so there's 16. When I was certified in 2016, there were only 8 trainers worldwide. So basically the way I share it with people is there's 5 levels. So there's the basic, intermediate, advanced. There's the master instructor, which is what I am. So I'm practicing at the highest level, and I can teach certify other people. But then there's a trainer. The trainer is the only person who can teach the master instructors. She was just in Budapest. They had a request for Budapest for this, and she was there, and obviously working through a trainer or translator. So it's in like 37 countries now. When I first moved, I grew up in Raleigh, North Carolina. I just moved back in 2021, and I didn't know anybody there. I did find out there's one other master instructor, but she only uses it for herself. And she hasn't been, she has never taught. And so I'm so passionate, Brooke will tell you, about this. I've been teaching and spreading. So I think I just started teaching about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So what brought me back down here was another massive trauma. My husband, my former spouse, Wasn't just those two affairs. There were others. And finally, so he was a part of, I don't know that he and I had a soul contract, but I know that he was a part of my experience that I was supposed to have, both personally and spiritually. That's a whole nother conversation. But there's some energetic spiritual components at play. So I know that on a much grander scale, he was here for me to elevate both personally and spiritually. So I spent a couple of years going through a long divorce and using this modality in my own program, like figuring it out, healing so that I can stand here today. So I started teaching. How long ago did you?
Mine was last spring.
So a year.
Yeah.
So it's been about, I think it's been about 18 months, maybe 2 years that I've been teaching again on and off here. And I think I have about 24 students that I've taught, 24, 25 students somewhere in there. So it's becoming more popular, and they are most of, not all, some of the people are just using it for themselves, but many of the people who came to me, they were already practitioners in some field, and they're using it. And do you mind just me asking, like, how are you using it?
Predominantly just myself.
Yep.
And sometimes like a remote situation, but mostly myself.
So you are still applying it though in your own life as you navigate these transitions. And that is common. I was just having a talk with the one person today. There are many people who do take it just for themselves. So with IET, same with Reiki, and I would assume most other modalities, but that's assuming, and you know what they say about assume. We can do self-treatments. We can do in-person treatments on somebody else, and you can do remote treatments on other people. So that's why it's not so well known. I'm doing my part to continue to spread that here because I'm so passionate about it, and I've seen it change not just my life, but I'm guided to just share a story with you. So that energy, right? That energy in the bucket, it's pressure, and it has weight, and it has volume. So when all that stored energy puts pressure and stress on the body, which can cause, as you know, physical pain and dis-ease in the body. So I had a client, I was just starting out. Like I opened my office in New York, and I hadn't been doing it very long. And I had a client who was about an hour and 20 minutes away. She called me. She found me on Google, set up an appointment. Didn't know really, I have an intake form, but none of what I'm going to share with you. She didn't disclose this. So she came in, she did the hour session, she left, everything was fine. She emailed me the next day. And she said, I have to tell you. She said, I've been in such chronic pain for years. She said, I wear a back brace all the time. The only way that I can ride in a car for a long period of time is with the seat laid down. What I didn't know is she didn't drive herself to the appointment till the next day. Her husband drove her the hour and 20 minutes with her laid down in the seat, prone, with her back brace on. And she took the back brace off before she came in. She said, I walked out of your office without pain, and I rode home sitting up in the car without my back brace. And I have not done that in years. So I'm curious, what types of energy medicine do y'all do?
I studied with, I have shamanic training. I studied with Alberto Walden.
Okay.
Not in person, it's all online.
Yeah. Okay.
Reiki master teacher, archangelic master, and sacred heart healing.
Okay, lovely.
Reiki master, angelic Reiki master teacher, and starting a shaman class locally.
Okay. So I'm sure you have your own stories of how you've healed through your different practices yourself and how you've used it for other people. With IET, for those of you who are Reiki practitioners, so one of the differences between IET and Reiki, there, so full disclosure, I am level 3 master instructor Reiki, and if you're familiar with Raven Key's medical Reiki when she was alive, so I'm actually certified through her. If somebody comes to me and asks for Reiki, I send them to somebody else. And the reason being, and that doesn't happen because we attract the people who that are right for us. My first 2 instructors, I did Reiki 1 and 2 in less than a day. There are a lot of people that do that, I know. And there are more people than you can imagine that do that. And so what I've learned very quickly once I got out into the real world and started seeing what other people are doing, I was like, I didn't get the best education in Reiki, and I'm so enamored, and IET was a good fit for me. So I don't generally do Reiki because I know that there are other people who are going to do a much better job with Reiki than I could. And my whole thing is I want what's best for my client, right? So all of that said, when you are performing an IET session, Reiki is automatically a secondary flow. If you are tuned to Reiki, it's an automatic. So your client is getting IET and Reiki. My understanding, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, that many Reiki sessions don't have a direct flow or pattern, a process that is followed. But that process can change and vary based on what you're doing.
Very individual. Yeah.
Yes. So with IET is structured. So we actually work through the cellular memory areas one by one. So cellular memory area 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. Now we get to the torso. We have cellular memory 8 and 9 on the body. And there's a process, but we literally follow that process step by step because the way it was downloaded to Stephen is there's an energetic flow that takes place between these trauma energies. So that is one of the big differences in addition to working with a different level frequency from IET and Reiki. But Reiki is always a secondary flow. So your clients are getting both of that. So who has questions so far?
So I don't know. Of course, I don't know anything about the IET, but so what's coming to me is where does the intuition come in? I use intuition. I mean, a lot.
So as with any training, right? And you're exposed to different frequencies and different concepts. That everything is intuition. I don't want to say everything, but a good chunk of it is intuition. And how that's going to come into play for each one of us is different. I can share with you how it is for me. So the way that I describe it is as the energy is being released from the body, it's giving me messages about the people, places, and situations that contributed to it. There's no rhyme or reason in how the body is going to release those. However, everything is intention based. So I think it's probably similar to, right, what do you want to achieve? So with IET, it's like, what do you want to release and what do you want to achieve, right? What is it that you want to let go of, and what do you want to bring in the process? I always encourage my clients to have both of those lenses. The way the intention resonates with me is our bodies, as smart as they are really kind of stupid. Because the body's main goal is to avoid pain. Right? You think about it. When you stub your toe or you hurt your foot, what do you start doing?
Walking
Automatically. You start limping. You limp long enough, what happens? You overtax another part of the system, and now it creates another problem. The body doesn't know that. All it knows. So now it's got this, and now it's got this, and it's trying to adjust to avoid this pain and this pain. The same is true with emotions. So where the intention comes in is, this is how it works for me. When we state our intention, and I share this with my clients and my students, when we share our intention, we are giving our body permission to now release what is no longer serving us. And I always invite everybody at the end of my sessions, because the body works hard. It works hard to protect us, and it works equally hard. Think about when you've done work, how exhausted you are. It works equally hard to let go of what's not serving us. So I invite everybody at the end of the session, thank your body for everything it has done to this date to serve and protect you. And thank your body for what it did today to release what is no longer serving you so you can move forward. So coming back to your question, for me, and this is true for all modalities that I'm familiar with and practitioners, some of them work in complete silence, and some of them talk through their own talker. Might not come as a surprise. But for me, it's as the energy is releasing. So how it's developed for me is, if I'm working, I smell things. Like today, one of my students was working on the other student, and all of a sudden I got a smell just from the energy coming off. And I'm like, to the person on the table, do you understand this? I'm trying to remember what it was. It was corn chips. I thought, that smells like Fritos. And literally I heard, no, it's corn chips. And it's like, okay, do you understand corn chips? And she goes, yeah, it's my grandma. It was right towards the end of the session. And I said, did you have a good relationship with your grandma? She's like, well, yeah, for the most part. So the grandmother was there in the session, supporting. She was one of the, and she made herself known to me at the end of the session. She waited. So that's right, the intuition, paying attention. The other thing for me is I feel things in my body. So if one of the classics is that I get is acid reflux symptoms. So I'm releasing stress and powerlessness. And for those who resonate that, the left side is the feminine energy and the right side is the masculine energy. If I'm working on the left side and I'm releasing stress and powerlessness, and all of a sudden I feel heartburn. So I'll say to my client, do you ever experience symptoms of heartburn? Yep. So now I'm able to give them a takeaway so that they can actually stop something from going even deeper. So now they have a connection to make. And I will say, and usually I can get a sense if it's stress or if it's powerlessness. That's kind of a knowing that I get from the energy. And so I will say, next time you experience that, ask yourself if you're feeling powerless in some situation. What were you just thinking about, or what are you experiencing? And if you are, know now that that's what this symptom is, and ask yourself, how can you empower yourself? Those are the two biggest ones for me, other than just knowing. And there's the one student that I had today. It was I always love it when it happens so fast. So she came in this morning, and one of her big things that she's releasing is fear. And I didn't know any of this till she's on the table and she's talking. Last night, she had to go run errands after we ended. And she said, I had to go drop something off. And it was dark, and I all of a sudden realized that I was feeling really scared. I was feeling fear. She said, before I never would have recognized that that's what I was feeling. But see, we had worked in the sessions yesterday, we had worked to release fear coming back. So once the energies are being released, now we can have better clarity. And she said, all of a sudden I made that connection, able to make that connection. Wow, I'm feeling fear. So now she's able to respond rather than react and allow that fear to continue. So every practitioner is different. But it's like with any of your modalities, the more you practice it and use it, your intuitive gifts will come into more into focus in how you're using this energy and how it's relating to you. And I don't know, I mean, it's been a while. Can you share how how it helped your intuitive gifts while either you were in the class or since then? Is there anything that stands out in your mind?
Trying to think. What you were saying before is like it does allow you to kind of separate out and where your emotional centers are too. If that so the shoulds kill me. So as soon as I'm like always a scrunched up shoulders person. So like as soon as I start to feel that, I'm like, I know what this is, So it helps me connect with my body more, I feel like, and identify kind of like what I am feeling at a particular time.
So that is an intuitive lens, right? To be able to intuit. So that's, yeah. So does that answer your question?
Yeah. And like I said, I don't even know where that question came from, but that's
Yeah.
the question I had.
No,
It came to me to
and it's
ask,
beautiful.
so
I have a
thank you for that.
saying, Brooks first heard it, but I have a saying, the only stupid question is the one not asked.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you for that, because it is important, and so much of it is intuition, and the biggest thing is trusting.
Yeah. And
Right?
I guess maybe where that came from was like structure, right? Because, even when I was taught, this is how you're taught, to do the practices. However, my teacher was like, always make it your own.
Yeah.
Feel into this, make it your own,
Yep.
So I guess the structure thing is
Yeah, absolutely. Well, because we do, yeah.
Structure.
We do. We think that structure doesn't leave room for creativity or flexibility. But yeah, working with the energy, right? And everybody, I'm trying to remember the one. The one student today, she was feeling things a little bit differently than most people do. So as a teacher, right, it's for me to help her, for me to kind of understand what she's experiencing and then understand how she's relating it so that she can do what feels right to her and in her own language. And so we were working on pulling out through the energy layer. So when we're pulling out through the energy layer in IET, we detect the blockages certain ways, the density of the blockage in a certain way. And one of them is, so that's described as molasses, as something feeling like sticky. She's like, no, I'm not feeling that. No, I'm not feeling that. And I was like, okay, so this is one of the other things that's happened for me is I actually see the energy. So when I'm teaching, I always work with my eyes closed because I fully feel it. But when I'm teaching now and my students are releasing it, I actually see the energy and I can see like where the blocks are, and I can see what's happening. So I can see that there was like this dense, like molasses dripping kind of. And she's like, no. She goes, but it feels thick. It feels really warm and thick. And I'm like, okay, that's how you're sensing the molasses. So that's all you need to know. Because otherwise she'd get hung up and, well, I don't know what molasses feels like. Like it doesn't feel sticky. It doesn't feel sticky. So for her, it was thick. And that's where, so now, as a teacher, that's where the intuition comes in, but then also helping my students then to just honor what they're experiencing and how they can relate it. So yeah, it's a brilliant question. Thank you. Who else has a question?
Does in comparison to Reiki, does the energy feel different to the client or to the practitioner?
So it does to me. And what I can tell you is the students who I've had, including the ones today, the one is Reiki, the other one didn't have any energy background. I said, yes, it definitely feels different. So
You put your hands on the person?
it can be both.
Okay.
Yeah. Generally speaking, it's hands-on, and we work above and below the body. So IET, you probably familiar with meridians in the body. Acupuncturists use IET works off of an integration channel, which is between the meridians. And along that integration channel are integration points. So there's a cellular memory area, guilt, distrust, shame. But then for each center, there are integration points along that channel that we work with. So yeah, but it can be done either way, through intention or hands on the body, or a combination of the two. It can be done in a chair. So if you have someone on a chair, when we do a self-treatment, I always share this, like there are certain parts of my body that I can get to, but once we got to start like getting to those integration points on the back of the body, I'm not limber enough and it hurts. And so anytime we're in pain or stress, right, it cuts that energy flow. So I do the parts that I can reach, and the rest of it I just envision. So what I would love to do, if nobody, so we have till 7, right?
Yeah, I was just going to say something for a little bit of the time.
Yeah. What's that?
I was just going to say something for a little bit of the time.
Oh, okay. What I'd love to do, if you think it's okay, is teach the heart rate.
Oh, okay. I like that one. Yeah, I'd use that.
So IT works off of an angelic heart link and a human heart link. So I'd love to walk you through the process, if you would like, of.
Oh, I'm already planning on signing up for a class.
Yeah,
So
So you don't have to do it on my account.
So I can teach that. I also thought about doing a 5-minute group empowerment session. So so basically I'll just sit here and you state your intention and I'll work. But that angelic heart link is really powerful. So, but you all, group census, do you want to learn the heart link